Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with HistoryThroughCards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. Over the weekend, I was at the Boston show here in Boston, and actually it was put on by Lucky's Promotions, which took over for Rich Altman's family. And I do miss Rich. I did business with him a number of times, in fact. So it was too bad that he passed away. Anyway, I'm not terribly familiar with Lucky's, but from what I saw, I have some pros and cons to this show. It was good in certain aspects, and there were certain things I didn't like about it, and I'll go through this with you guys. And I'm going to try to keep this one kind of short this time. I'm kind of known for longer videos, but this was at the Shriners Auditorium in Wilmington, Mass, from April 26th to the 28th. And the one thing I did like about this was that there were a lot of autographed guests. Some of them did not stay long, but I'm showing you right here who did sign. And there were two guys that I really wanted to meet. Artis Gilmore was a ABA Hall of Famer. He is a ABA Hall of Famer, and I believe he's the 1972 ABA MVP. He was really good ball player, and obviously in the Hall of Fame. But I always wanted to meet him, and I do have a 1972 Topps basketball, which is his rookie, which I did get autographed, and that's going to go straight in my collection. The other guy I really wanted to meet was Charlie Scott, and his rookie is the 1971 Topps basketball, and it is a really neat card. Actually, both of these cards are really great. Actually, the colors really pop; they really stand out. And obviously, I've talked a lot about the 71 and 72 Topps basketball sets being one of my all-time favorite sets, particularly because of the colors, the ball players, the histories of the NBA and ABA, and I think I think that if anyone wanted to get into vintage basketball, I would recommend starting with these two sets. I did see a lot of these cards at the show, even the Lou Alcindor and a few others, and they were actually quite cheap, affordable for the average collector who just wanted to get in. So you can actually get into vintage basketball through the 71, 72, and 73. And obviously the lesser of these three issues is the 73, but I think it'd be a good opportunity for someone who wanted to get into vintage basketball to pick up Hall of Famers on the cheap. That's why I recommend them. But you also had uh, Thomas Ian Nichols was there as well, and he's from Rookie of the Year, and he was also in the American Pie series as well. So that was really interesting. Dominique Wilkins didn't show up. He had a conflict, I guess, but there was a lot of really great autograph guests. I did see Sean Kemp and Gary Payton as well, and from what I've heard, because I didn't follow these guys, but from what I've heard, they were teammates, and they actually had a really good time, and they were commiserating with the fans and having a blast. So I'm glad that they really enjoyed themselves here. Gene Ritelli or Rattel, he was there as well, and I'm glad that he was. Oh, Dennis Rodman. And so I didn't see Dennis Rodman there, but from what I've heard, he was there. Earl Campbell, Warren Moon. Earl Campbell had a lot of guests. I believe he was there actually for 2 days. Muggsy Bogues, unfortunately, I missed him. I would have loved to have met Muggsy Bogues, Rafael Palomero as well, and Jose Canseco. And Jose, he's got that book that I've read a little bit about, the tell-all book, and he's just a really interesting guy. One of the things that I really didn't like about this was the entrance fee, which was $15. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot of money, and quite frankly, it may not be. but it does add up. And so I was thinking that, you catch more flies with honey, so having a lower entrance fee, you might get more people in there. And so Friday and Saturday, I didn't see all too many people there. There wasn't too many. The crowd was okay. It was workable. But Sunday, it was packed. The other thing, which I haven't liked in a long time, and it's not the show's fault at all, but cement floors really do a number on anybody. And I would recommend getting good shoes and even maybe an extra pair of socks. But that's just me. So at this show, you had a little bit of everything for everybody, and I saw a lot of really expensive cards. Here you can see you got three T206 Ty Cobb's red background. One here is 14,000. Another one's for 12. You have it looks like the Bill O'Hara and the Ray Demet, and both of those cards, if I'm correct here, both of those cards were issued out of the Middleton, Ohio branch of the American Tobacco Company. They're both key cards to the T206 set, and basically they were pulled from production. I think because both of these guys were actually traded. So the only time you're going to find these two cards with the St. Louis variation is through the Middleton branch. 14,000 on one, 5,900 on the other. Quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure which one is rarer. If I had to guess, it would be the O'Hara is a little bit rarer, but this is interesting because who's actually going to buy these cards? I could see, okay, maybe the Ray Dummett here. You're not getting that kind of clientele at a show for the most part. I think a lot of these cards would be better suited at a regular auction house. And so there was a number of auction houses there. Obviously, Hunt Auction was there. I didn't see REA there, but I did see a few others. And so these kind of cards, this is like a museum, right? So a lot of people say like you've got a lot of museum pieces, but a lot of people here are on a beer budget, if you will, right? Champagne on a beer budget. So these cards aren't gonna move, and maybe maybe that's the intention of the dealer, because I see here another one, green background Cobb for 6,600, and a few others here, 4,100 for a Cy Young. And you see this all over the place here at this show. I just don't see a lot of these cards moving. And in fact, if you see here, there's a 1915 Cracker Jack Branch Rickey. Now I reported on this card a few years ago, in fact, and a lot of these cards haven't moved in at least 3 or 4 years. This dealer has had them for that long, if not longer, and you know, sometimes I wonder if the dealer just wants to say, "Hey, look what I have." And again, you never know who's going to walk in that door and purchase a card here. But for the most part, you kind of have to know your audience. You have a lot of these quote unquote champagne cards, or museum pieces. On the other hand, though, you have a lot of rare cards that you may not normally see. And this is great because seeing a card online is one thing, seeing it in person is something completely different, and it's a different experience altogether. And that's the one thing I really liked about this show, was that you had a lot of really very rare cards and memorabilia at this show that you might not normally see otherwise. So it is a plus and it is a negative, a pro or a con, if you will, at the same time. But it is really neat to see all these Cracker Jacks. I do like the Cracker Jack set quite a bit, and there is some household names here. That Fred Clark has been on my list for a very long time, at least 2 decades. Maybe someday I'll get a hold of it. The Tris Speaker is always awesome, and the Christy Mathewson as well. He has a pitching version. I believe you're going to find that in the 1914. And then you have Branch Rickey here, which I did report on this card. This is really interesting because it's got a huge chunk missing out of it, and they have it a poor one, which is acceptable. I mean, how many times are you actually going to see this card? I've actually seen it twice. That's about it in my card collecting career, if you will. And it is a really neat card. Thing is, too, this is not his rookie card. Technically, um, he's supposed to have a Sporting News or a Sporting Life premium. It's checklisted, but I don't think anyone has ever seen it. In fact, it could be off on the date. It could be 1907. A few others. You have the Babe Ruths here, which I've reported on. Again, he hasn't sold those in several years. So if you're into non-sports, there's a lot of that going on here too. These are sets that I've never really seen before, and I am kind of a Trekkie. I grew up with Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I didn't know that there were card sets available uh, because I just never looked for them, I guess. So that's really interesting. And Star Trek: The Next Generation is a TV show that I grew up with, as opposed to my father, who grew up with the regular Star Trek. And then you have, Captain Kirk here. And William Shatner is like, what, 93, 94? God bless that guy. I hope he lives to be 100 years old because he's just an amazing dude, real amazing guy. There was a guy there that had just a ton of autographed Boston Celtics merchandise and cards and everything else, and a lot of Bob Cousy autographed stuff. Bob Cousy is still alive too. He's still with us at 94, 95 years old, and I really wish that he'd be 100 years old. And at some point, hopefully, he will, because he's just another really amazing ball player and person as well. So if you wanted to start a really nice vintage collection, you actually could do that here. You'd have to dig around a little bit, but not everything there was expensive for vintage. And I walked away with a 1954 Topps hockey Ted Lindsay for $10. It was probably the best purchase I made actually at the show. It's a great card. The dealer really, he was very unhappy with the card. He bought a lot, but the dealer, I've known him for a long time. He's a very good guy, and I didn't even try to negotiate because I knew it was just I thought it was a great card. It may have a little bit of issues going on. Again, I was very happy. Hall of Famer, so you can't do wrong. And I love the 1954 Topps hockey set. There were a few cards here that really didn't make a whole lot of sense, and this was one of them. The 1972 Topps Phil Jackson for $200. And I noticed that the dealer actually had a number of cards like this. It didn't make any sense, the sticker price. So maybe some dealers just don't want to get rid of their stuff. But if that's the case, wouldn't you just leave that stuff at home and not bring it? It's just, I don't know, something about it just didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And maybe you guys could fill me in on this too. So this is really interesting. I've actually never seen this before. It's Dixie Lid of Buster Crabbe, and I'll probably talk more about him in another video. He did play Flash Gordon, and a lot of people they may be familiar with the Flash Gordon movie from 1980. And so I'll be talking more about this. But again, you never know what you're going to see at a show, and you never know what's going to pique somebody's interest. This obviously piqued mine. I believe it's from 1938, actually, not the 1940s, but I'll be talking more about it. So It's really interesting, and I'm a science fiction nerd anyway, so I thought this was really interesting. And then there was another dealer that I came across who had nothing but boxing for the most part and autographed boxing. Here we have Angelo Dundee, really famous guy. I heard he was well connected with the mafia, and well, gee, boxing and the mafia, you don't say. Anyway, he was fantastic, this dealer, because he went to a lot of these fights starting in like the 1950s, and he got a lot of the stuff signed himself. Willie Pep here, Hall of Famer. That's a great autograph. Um, and I almost grabbed this. Instead, I had to grab a Burt Sugar autograph card. I didn't even know that Burt Sugar actually had a card, so I was really interested in that. Carmen Basilio, he doesn't really have any cards out there from his boxing career, so anything afterwards, and he's got a great autograph too. And well, $15. I probably should have picked that up, to tell you the truth. Floyd Patterson again, I see that up there. But yeah, he had some great stuff, and I really enjoyed talking to him. Terry O'Reilly, I've talked about him in the past. That's his rookie 1973 OPC, and $40. I probably should have grabbed that. I've been looking for one for a long time, and one of the things about that particular card is they chip quite easily around the corners and the sides, but and they're usually found diamond cut as well. Here's a couple of cards that you could potentially get a hold of pretty cheap, cheaper than the price, our quote unquote our price. The $400 seems to be the book, the max. And the funny thing is that like I not once did I see a price guide there. I think price guides are gone the way of the dinosaur actually. I haven't used a price guide in a long time, and usually the prices they're all over the place. There's no consistency with prices at all today. And that really kind of bothers me in a way. I think that Beckett really had a great idea when they started the monthly price guides, and they used a mathematical formula, which I think has gone out of fashion these days. This was interesting. I didn't pick this up because it looked like it was bleached. It spent a few hours in the on the beach in the sun. But if you really wanted to pick up a Lou Alcindor, I believe this is 1970, you could do so really cheap. And that's the one thing I did like about this show. And then I actually did pick up this Bart Star here, not for 63. I got it for cheaper than this actually. But I love the 1959 Topps football. It's one of my favorite football sets from the late 1950s. Bowman's my other. I have it's my guilty pleasure actually. The 1950s Bowman football. The 86-87 Flair basketball complete set. $13,000 cash or a cashier's check. No personal check. Well, I think I'm gonna pass. But it was really interesting to see this, and it brought back a lot of memories. In fact, I think my cousin actually had this set when we were growing up as kids. So another buddy of mine, he actually bought a set similar to this. Here's the 54 Tops hockey, and I really love this set. These are a little bit expensive, actually quite expensive, but it's still a very popular set. It's actually Topps first foray into hockey as well, and there's a lot of Hall of Famers. But if you guys really wanted to collect early post-war hockey, I would probably go for this and the 53 Parkhurst, though I didn't see too many 1953 or 54 Parkhurst at this show. Sometimes at some shows you'll see an overabundance of a certain issue, and you won't see that issue again for a long time. And uh, this set is very similar to that, where I could go years without seeing it, and then all of a sudden I'll see more cards than I've ever seen before of a certain set or year. So that was really cool to see this. Again, here's another very affordable Ted Williams, 1955. And my buddy Charlie, I did a lot of business with him. This is his cards, in fact. Very personable. Uh, He was a very good dealer. He's been around forever. And if you wanted to purchase a Ted Williams, here you go, right here. Unfortunately, I didn't get Charlie's information, but and I didn't get a whole lot of information from other dealers, which that's my fault. There was just so much to see at this show that, and is talking to people as well, that I kind of it kind of slipped my mind to do this. That's one of the things I really like about shows in general is that there's a lot there to see for the most part, and I always take notes. I always photograph cards, and just for my own reference as well. And then meeting people as well. I think that's the half the fun of going to shows and being in the hobby is meeting people and hearing their stories and what they have in their own collections, because that can also kind of like give you a thought about your own collection. What do you want your collection to be like, or kind of mold it after somebody else's? So I actually bumped into Mike from Junk Wax Hero, and I'll leave a link to his channel. Really great channel, really great guy. He's got some really neat cards in his collection, and I really enjoy watching his channel quite a bit. So it was great to bump into him. So I know he mentioned me in his look at this show, and I might as well return the favor because he's a good guy and he's got a great channel as well. So there actually was quite a number of people at this show, and I did enjoy the show. I'm not saying it wasn't bad. It was different than other shows as far as I'm concerned. While you could pick up cards on the cheap, trying to get or negotiate deals was a little bit of a challenge. Here is a really neat Rocky Colavito. I actually I picked this card up and I got a really great price. I've been actually looking for this card for quite some time, and it's been on my list for a very long time actually. The 4.5 grade, actually, it looks a lot better. It has maybe like a few small issues, and I didn't really pick up on this, and I bought it, which I have no problem with that. But I showed it to another buddy of mine, and he actually saw what I couldn't. And one of the things that again, it's universal maybe to a lot of shows is the lighting in a lot of these places sucks. I try to carry around with me a magnifying glass that lights up, and I did have one on me, and I look like Inspector Clouseau with this thing. So it was a little bit on the embarrassing side, but I always recommend that you guys go out and grab a jeweler's loop, like a 30 times with a light and a black light as well. And because I'm me, I always have to go above and beyond. So I have a gram scale as well and a few other things. And, officer, I am not a drug dealer. I'm a card collector. That's what I'm actually kind of afraid of, getting pulled over with a gram scale more than anything in a black light, because that's going to be awesome. Here's the Bob Cousy autographs, and look at this. Like on the top here, he's got what, one, two, three, four, six, yeah, six rookie cards autographed. The green ink is really nice on these, and then on the bottom here, those are the 1951 Burke Ross. Is what those are, and he's in his Holy Cross jersey. And then you can see the Bill Russell card there too. I saw actually a few of those. In fact, that card was actually quite affordable. In fact, back in like maybe the 1980s and 1990s, And the Bob Cousy rookie was quite affordable too. I picked one up for I want to say $60. Can't do that anymore. And that just kind of goes to show you that these prices are kind of uh, they're kind of crazy, to tell you the truth. I hate to say this, back in my day, when I was a kid, a teenager, I could pick up a lot of this stuff very cheap, and I did, and I used that money to go to college. So it was possible. But again, I really love this stuff. Even if you don't buy this stuff, it's just so great to look at, and it gives you a lot of ideas. Where there's a will, there's a way. If you really want something, you work hard for it, and your dollar may not be going as far as you want or used to, but again, don't let that discourage you from trying to build a really nice collection. It's just going to take the newer collectors today to work a little bit harder, unfortunately. But I have faith that you guys can actually do this if you really want to get into vintage. Now, the funny thing is that I did run into several collectors and a few dealers that actually did want to get into vintage. They didn't know a whole lot about it, and I tried to do my best to give people pointers. And it's one of the ways that I learned actually was through older collectors. And I kind of tip my hat off to those older collectors that showed me the ropes. So I figured, you know what, like I might as well do the same because I was in that boat at one point, and I think a lot of people were too. In fact, this isn't a race. You should be in it for the long haul. Uh, Learn as much as you can and ask questions. And there's going to be someone there who's may know the answer, or not. But that's again another great thing to going to shows is that you never know what you're going to see. And again, I take a lot of notes and photograph stuff, and I do a lot of research. And I think if you're going to get into vintage, vintage requires you to do a lot of reading, a lot of research, and you guys can do it. It just takes time. That's all. All right, so this is interesting. These are 1984 Flair. I can't believe it's been 40 years. Man, time just flies by. This is from the update set, I'm pretty sure. And I'd never seen that Brett Saberhagen card before. Yeah, and it says update. So it's still a very popular set, a very expensive set. I did see the Kirby Puckett, and I'll be talking about Kirby Puckett in another video, so I don't want to get too far track on him. I really don't come across these cards too often. They were big sellers back in 1984, and they still are. A very very popular set, and the Doc Gooden here, a really neat card. I'm probably gonna do a video on Doc Gooden. In fact, I know that the Mets just retired his number, and I think Darryl Strawberry is up next, from what I've been told. But man, he's got a really interesting story. And then this is the Hank Aaron, the other rookie, the 1954 Johnson cookies. I actually prefer this card over the tops, and I know that's probably blasphemy in some circles, but the tops Hank Aaron rookie, I see that card all the time, and you could actually purchase that card for about $400 or maybe even a little bit less prior to the pandemic. And a lot of those high profile cards from the 50s, most of them are not rare. There's a 1959 Jim Brown second year, which I actually prefer that card over his rookie. I just don't like his rookie, but it's personal preference, really. Your collection really tells you a little bit about who you are and what your likes are and dislikes. Here's another like of mine, really. The 1954 Bowman Willie Mays. I love that card. That's a great card. The set I'm not a big fan of. I know the Ted Williams was pulled from production because he had signed a major contract with Topps in '54, I believe for $100,000. And obviously that was huge money back then, but Bowman did pull that card and they replaced it with Jimmy Pearsall. And then you have the 54 Bowman Mickey Mantle here. And that Mantle is not a rare card. A lot of cards from the 50s are not that rare, to tell you the truth. It's just that what I've noticed over the last couple of years, and specifically about this show, was that there were a lot of lower graded cards that were going for inflated prices. A lot of these prices, these cards are not worth what the dealers are asking for, and they can kind of like get away with it because collectors are buying these lower graded cards. It's a longer discussion here. I also ran into another problem here with a pushy dealer, a very pushy dealer. These things happen, and it's really all about how to deal with people, how to negotiate for what you want. It's a trait that I've found with a lot of collectors over the years, where you can learn to be a good negotiator and a good communicator. And I normally don't say and ah and in normal life, which I didn't at this show. But I just don't like this medium at all, and it's kind of a roadblock. But that's neither here nor there. I did really enjoy this show for a lot of reasons. The outlandish prices were something I didn't like, and I kind of wonder if again, some dealers just they didn't want to sell their cards, or it's something like, hey, look what I have and you don't, and that's human nature, right? But other dealers had some really great cards at really great prices, affordable prices. So I kind of paid attention to that more. What I also saw too that really bothered me, and has really nothing to do with the show, was the modern stuff. I'm not really a modern collector, and to each his own. I really don't have any problems with anyone collecting modern at all. Some people collect modern to get into vintage. That's vintage is really where I feel more comfortable with. What really bothers me is the autographs. And so some of these autographs, as you can see here, I think they look like chicken scratches. And quite recently there was a huge complaint made about Tom Brady's autograph on some very rare, one of a kind memorabilia, and the person who owned it said that Tom Brady ruined his memorabilia from his autograph. This really is very interesting because when I see stuff like this, it kind of tells me that the player in question who's doing the autograph here really doesn't care about the fans. It's lazy. Moreover, though, if you're the person who designed the card or the company issuing the card, your name is on this. This is your product. It's going to follow you wherever you go, even if you're out of business. And do you really want to have a player who's got a chicken scratch for an autograph? I think it does a real disservice to basically everybody, including the player themselves. If they're that time consumed or lazy, do you really want to have their autograph to begin with? That's the one thing that really kind of bothers me about it, is that, well, okay, so there's a few things here that bother me about it, but you guys really, you guys know what I'm talking about here. I did get that autograph from Charlie Scott, and I've never met Charlie before, and I really wanted his autograph, and so I got it, and it's it looks like this, and you guys can make up your mind. I'm not entirely sure how a lot of these grading companies or authentication companies authenticate these autographs. It kind of leaves open forgery. It really does. I think there's a lot of people who can forge this stuff, and the players are they're feeding into this. And we already saw what happened with the T206 forgeries. So that guy was operating from at least 2011 until he got caught, I believe in what 2023 or so. It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue because you're paying a lot of money, and you're paying a lot of money to meet these people as well. So if it's me, and I'm only gonna say this, if it's me, I'm gonna give you the best autograph I can because it's my name associated with it. It tells other people that I take pride in my autograph. I take pride in myself as well. And if someone's gonna have me sign their stuff, again, it's not yours, it's theirs. They're promoting it. They may be paying you for that autograph. It's the company, right, that's associated with this stuff. So if I were the company, I wouldn't be happy with this stuff because it's their name associated. If you understand what I'm trying to convey to you guys, I just don't like this stuff. And again, I saw so many autographed items. It's different when you have autographed items from say the 1910s, 20s, 30s, 40s. A lot of the dead ball era guys didn't understand autograph or why anyone would want a signature. That changes during the 1940s and 50s and 60s. And so now it's just how quickly can the card companies make a buck. That's it. And they'll really stop at nothing to make a buck, even if it means destroying a one of a kind jersey or taking a vintage card and chopping it up for the autograph and inserting it into their card. And I've seen a lot of that too. And that sucks. That's no good. You're destroying history, as far as I'm concerned, when you do that. Anyway, guys, that's my take on it. There were a lot of great cards there, a lot of things that I really haven't seen before, and I hope that everybody who was at that show had fun. And let me know what you guys picked up if you actually went to this show. I would love to hear what you guys have picked up. And I met a lot of great people as well. Some for the first time, others I hadn't seen in a couple of years. And again, like half the hobby is meeting new people and sharing experiences with other collectors. And that's really, I think, what the essence of the hobby is. And for me, again, it's learning as well, seeing new cards or old cards that I may not have ever seen before. So, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I greatly appreciate it. Let me know in the comment section below if you went to the show, what you picked up, and what you liked about the show, and what you didn't like about the show. All right, guys, I'll leave you there. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Bye.